Greetings and welcome back to yet another daily run, and today we're playing as Judas. And before we start, I just have a quick confession to make. What ended up happening yesterday is Windows received, my computer received a new Windows update. And as you might know, updates tend to break things sometimes. And what ended up happening is, what ends up happening is whenever I receive a new update, my computer the next day kind of starts acting a bit weird. It starts freezing on occasions and kind of hitching. And it's not really a problem in a daily day-to-day life if I'm just using the computer for computer stuff. But the day when I started recording and I came to the first boss, I ended up dying. Because, my computer froze for just a second, and with only one heart, the Judas just dies very fast. And I ended up losing the run, and because I didn't want to upload the run that only goes to the first boss, I just said, I'm just gonna go do a practice run and just pretend like it's a regular run without worrying about anything. It's not like I have a ton of information more than any other person that's just playing this fairly and just for the first time. I basically only saw the first boss, so I just feel like it's justifiable in this way. Sometimes these technological issues are going to happen, bugs in the game. These are just the things you kind of can't get away with. Get away from. I guess you can get away with them, but you can't get away from them. Well. In any case, here we're fighting Dingle, and Dingle was considered to be one of the hardest bosses when Rebirth came out. I remember reading forum threads about him, and everyone was like, this boss is just a bit too unfair, don't you think? Because he spawns the little poops, and he charges you like a crazy maniac, and there's nothing you can do about it. But with time, as we kind of grew to love him, he just has become kind of a stable boss, especially early on. I feel like he's a very fair boss. He doesn't have too many attacks for you to learn. He has like a few tells that tell you which attack he's gonna do, and when you get used to them, kind of play the game a little bit, he just becomes one of those bosses that are okay to kind of come across. He's not a pushover as, for example, Pain is, but also he's not super hard like Haunt, for example. So he just ends up being in a happy medium, I feel, where he's just a kind of a good boss and a fun boss to fight against. And with that said, we did end up getting a few good items here. We ended up getting a Tears upgrade. We ended up getting that small rock, which is just good. Our DPS is through the roof. With Book of Belial, it just allows us to kill all bosses and enemies in just one shot. There's an argument to be made on the previous floor why I didn't go to the shop and hope potentially buy a Spirit Heart. But I just felt, with just how much I played the game, that I'm relatively safe, only one heart, which means I can take one hit in a good scenario, and I just felt, with Book of Belial and that high starting damage, that I'm gonna be fine and that I don't really need an extra layer of protection. Here we have an interesting choice. Do we take the Spirit of the Night or do we take Goathead? Of course, Goathead is gonna give us a deal of the Devil Deals until the end of the run, which is a great thing because we want good items. And on the other hand, we have a Spirit of the Night, which is gonna give us Flight, and that will of course give us more defense in a way that we can kind of hide over rocks or chasms to shoot enemies, and give us possibilities to get items that maybe otherwise we wouldn't be able to get, or consumables or things like that. And I chose to pick Spirit of the Night because I feel it's immediately more useful. We do have Book of Belial, which increases our chance to get a Devil Deal, so I just felt, like Goathead isn't as big of a deal as getting Flight at this particular instance is. We pick up Magic Mushroom, which is a great item. In general, increases your damage, health, speed, anything. It even makes you look bigger, so you look more intimidating for the enemies, which is always great, especially against Pestilence, because he just ends up dying at the sight of us because we have so much damage in DPS. He just can't stand it. He just dies in a few seconds flat, and it's always great when you can just enter into the boss room, kill the enemies, and just kind of go out without ever knowing what you were actually fighting against. So yeah, my point about Spirit of Night is I just feel like it's a more useful item. It just in general, it allows you to do so many things more than just a Goathead would be able. Sure, maybe Goathead is better for us on average in the long run, but at the same time, I feel like Spirit of Night is that flight opportunity early on that just kind of makes your run so much stronger and so much more versatile than if you didn't have it. If the run went to only Mom, I would say pick Goathead just because you have more chances to find the shovel, and that's a bit more viable, a bit better than just hoping than just having flight, like in this scenario. But because this run does go to the last room, the dark room, well, the chest, sorry. The chest, having flight I feel is gonna be just more useful in general. And this run ended up being really strong. So strong given that we just kinda... We have the money and capabilities to reroll items that we feel are not that good. Like Continuum, which is just in general a very fun item, but we just reroll it until we get a better one. And I feel Book of Shadows is a better item, because it allows you to do so many things, especially when you have an orbital. It just allows you to use your Book of Shadows, get that shield, and then just let your orbitals do the work, or Poison Touch, or whatever you might have. Whichever item you might have that allows you to deal contact damage, having Book of Shadows will of course give you that layer of protection and you don't get hit, which is just so important in daily runs because of course they damage penalty is very high. And also at the same time it just allows you to kill enemies and bosses so much easier if you do have a way to deal contact damage. We do end up eating some stupid damage here and there, and you know, this is gonna happen. I feel like I kind of justify that within myself, that Isaac is just inherently a game that's gonna get you hit sometimes, and that you kind of can't escape from it. I know there are players that only get hit like 2 or 3 times on average per run, and kudos to them. I feel like I should improve my play to that point, but at the same time, I just kind of internalized that Isaac is a game where you're gonna get hit a lot, so I just don't feel as bad for, you know, taking damage here and there. Spelunker Head is very useful because we have a huge lack of bombs. I feel like we only had like a few bombs until this floor, and Spelunker Head really allows us to only bomb those places that we know contain a secret or a second secret room, because Spelunker Head does allow you to see through walls and see what the next room is. It then allows you of course to use bombs, less bombs in general, because you're not guessing where possible locations are, but you just place the bomb wherever you kind of feel like you should. And if you only have one bomb, my recommendation is go for the second secret room, because it does give you more points than just the regular secret room, and in general I feel like they are a bit more useful. They contain a bit more consumables and items that you can kind of deal with. A good job that is, we get a second Jera rune here, and because we're kind of saving one Jera in hoping to get a blank card, so we can duplicate everything basically and get a lot of points. We can, and because we have 2 now, we can use one in the shop to get a few more bombs and keys, or of course, like I said, in this room, which has just a ton more consumables for us. In general, you know, because we need bombs here, I feel like we'll be better off just duplicating this room instead of the shop. The shop would have given us like 2 keys and 2 bombs, which is just of course worse than getting 8 bombs. We do need those bombs later on, because now we do have Spelunker Head. We can use every single bomb that we kind of received now to find those secret rooms on later floors, which of course will give us a bunch of points. We can't forget Jera, almost forgot Jera, and I just go back to pick it up. And here's just where contact damage shines. Against Mom, when she stomps her leg down and you have Book of Shadows, even if you don't, and you just have a way to deal damage with orbitals and Poison Touch, like I do in this scenario, she just dies so fast, she doesn't stand a chance, and you're just kind of so safe. Especially in this run, because of course we're naturally very strong. It's just such a great thing to have one orbital, just one orbital. You don't need like 15 of them to be protected from damage forever, but just one orbital is just such an important... I feel like it's a staple almost, something that at least I got very used to. Of course we're gonna use our Book of Shadows and our shield and our Cube of Meat to great extent here, because every wave of boss rush gives us 2 charges, and so that means 2 waves of boss rush gives us a full charge, which means of course that we can use our Book of Shadows every second wave to kill bosses and enemies without a problem, because it's just one of those great items, of course, that you can afford. It basically allows us to do boss rush much faster than someone who of course didn't have this combo. So if you're just stuck with Book of Belial, it of course it would have helped you, but I feel it wouldn't have helped you as much if you did have Book of Shadows. So I take some dumb damage here, and this room also takes some dumb damage. Sometimes the enemies can be a bit unpredictable, and this was just a streak of bad damages. I feel like when you get hit once, and when you're in that mindset of not trying to get hit, it just ends up happening more and more because you kind of focus on not taking damage and then you start dodging into enemies and kind of instead of away of them. That's just something that's gonna happen. Of course, you get kind of tilted. It happens in any game, in any mode or whatever. You'll just start, one mistake leads to another until you kind of can recoup a little and get your focus back. Bloat here died so fast, it wasn't even worth mentioning. I just used Book of Shadows. Like that's my strategy for this run. Just use Book of Shadows and let everything do the work for you. So that's why I feel there's not so much to show. Another great thing is the Super Greed. It just died in like 6 shots. And we're always happy to see Super Greed or Greed in secret rooms, because if they're in secret rooms, we know they're not gonna be in shops. Well, this floor doesn't have any shops, but I'm just saying in general, if you see Greed or Super Greed in a secret room, you know they're not gonna be in the shop. They're gonna give you a few coins, then you can spend to maybe get a better item, and that's always a good thing. Again, we're deploying the same strategy here. Book of Shadows with Cube of Meat into Mom. It just is such a great combination. Of course, if you can get it in a daily run, it's just so much better because there's no danger to, because you can get hit. At the same time, you just deal so much damage, so much more damage than just with your tears, that it's kind of crazy. And we don't end up getting to Hush here because this run does go to the chest. It means that we kind of fight Hush on the way. Hush is just a huge amount of points, like, you know, like obviously like Boss Rush or any other boss. So it's in our best interest to fight them as much as possible. And we always have a kind of a choice what to take, what not to take. Luckily here it's a bit easier because our Book of Shadows isn't charged up. And even if it was, that 4 or 5 second invisibility that we get is not that good, especially against a boss that usually takes like a few minutes to kill. So what I end up taking is Pinking Shears, just because Pinking Shears does spawn that body, which deals constant damage. With Hush, it's a bit tricky to kind of get that body to lock onto him, but if you're kind of safe and kind of get close to him enough, it's possible. Of course, I'm also dropping bombs here to hopefully find crawl spaces or something like that. It didn't turn out too well here, and I just decided, okay, I'm not gonna waste any more bombs, I'm just gonna go in, use my Pinking Shears, get my body to hit the boss and Hush and the question mark guy. And we're just gonna go from there, right? Luckily, this Hush fight didn't end up being too difficult because of those shears. Shears are just a great item in general against bosses, and even against Hush, you know. It might not seem like much just because he's so super tanky, but when you see that constant source of damage to him, it just kind of makes you a bit more confident and comfortable. And he does, of course, that body from Pinking Shears does help you kind of crowd control his minions a bit, which is just something you kind of have to have, penetrating shots or a way to deal more damage to more minions. What I wanted to point out here is, just when he starts shooting your continuum shots at you, they kind of go over your head at the start, and then only are you in danger. So when they come from the other side, just like I said, try to find a lane where you think you're gonna be safe, so that means like a blank spot between the tiers. And then just stand there for the duration, and if you're in the right spot, you can actually shoot him while he just kind of misses you and doesn't hit you and give you any damage. And that's, I feel like, the greatest way to deal with Hush. Just kind of get used to those continuum shots and hope that he uses them a lot. Because as soon as he starts spawning enemies and going underground, you're just not gonna get him because there's so much. Of course, when he's underground, he's invincible, so there's no way to get him. But if you don't have like any AoE to deal more damage to more enemies, those enemies have just a ton of health, and just with single tears, it's so hard to get through them. While he's also shooting you, there's just so many things on the screen that make it hard to kind of deal with him. So yeah, that's why I feel you really should get used to those continuum shots and kind of how to dodge them and use them to your advantage, because it is really one of the most easiest attacks he has that you can dodge while also dealing a lot of damage to him. We continue with our premium strategy here of using a shield and just going to town with our orbital and our poison touch. Sadly, we couldn't use this strategy against Hush, but like I said, those 5 seconds of orbital damage against him is just not gonna be that useful, because he does have that inherent shield that protects him from dealing damage, so he will always die in kind of a same speed unless you're super, super powerful. But of course, in this run, we are powerful, but not as powerful to be able to kill Hush in just a few seconds. And we end up, just kind of using the strategy till the end. So there's not really that much to show because most rooms are very brainless. Especially on later floors, there's just not much to do. There are no shops, item rooms, decisions to be made. They're just, you're just going through, killing enemies, trying to find as many coins and bombs and keys as possible. And trying, of course, not to get hit. And with having a shield, it's very easy not to get hit. I like that the more you play this game, the more you kind of get used to unfair rooms, I guess. Because when you first start playing this game, it's just so super hard and you can't imagine how you're gonna deal with things. But the more you play kind of the more you see particular patterns, you kind of remember how you have to move in order not to get hit. And then things become so trivial that you just kind of consider them second nature. I guess that's true with every game. But Isaac especially, I feel, repetition is a key to success. This is our last room for here, and that's actually the end of the daily. I think it was fun daily. Sadly, we couldn't utilize the gyro rune, and we'd end up getting about 45,000 points, which would end up ranking us in about the 70th, 80th, and that's always a good score, I feel. And of course, if you enjoyed it, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.